Let's take a look inside this great book.
Hi, I'm James Thurman, and welcome to my series of book reports. Each of these videos will give a brief overview of a book related to metalsmithing or jewelry making that I found particularly useful. Full disclosure, I have not received any compensation for sharing these books. I just really like them and want to share them with others. So I thought a great one to start off with would be The Complete Metalsmith by Tim McCreight. And I started off with kind of an older edition of his that I had when I started my career decades ago. And I do have to confess that I like the binding on the older edition a bit more. But even just by taking a look at the table of contents, you'll see that there's a lot of new and great content in the newer edition as opposed to in the older edition. So several more chapters, reorganization, addition of content, things like that. So I think it's maybe worth putting up with, at least maybe it's my pet peeve with the binding. But this book, as opposed to a lot of the other ones that I'm going to be going through, is just such a wonderful resource. I think I'm going to go through pretty much all of it as opposed to just some highlights. So you can see how he organizes the whole book. And I love that it just has a very friendly feel with a lot of the hand drawings that he's kept, additions of quotes and things like that. A lot of people confuse metalsmiths with metallurgists, but I do think it's important to know the materials that we're working with. So a lot of the books, this one included, kind of start off with just an introduction to those materials. And in this one, this edition, he's added some other ones with basic intro to glass, rubber and paper, things like that. He's also added an overview with tools and just going through the important aspects of hand tools. And I like how Tim brings in a bit of his own kind of personal perspective and philosophy as well into this book particularly. Lots of great possibilities for handouts if you're a teacher. Lots of great references that I always go back to. And if there was a single book, particularly for beginners or someone that wants to advance their metalsmithing or jewelry making skills, it would definitely be this one. So we're going through the tools. And of course, you don't need all these tools, but he does give, I think, an overview of the most common ones. These are great plans if you were going to build your own bench. Jewelers' benches can be quite expensive, but this is a great kind of do-it-yourself version, both basic and advanced. And if you're going to be doing a lot of metalsmithing, a lot of hammering or something, kind of a more solid version as well. Moving from those tools, he gets into basic metal shaping or forming, talking about a variety of different common processes that we do pretty much every day that we're in the studio. And you can see just how he approaches it with covering, just not getting super in-depth. There's some other books that I'm going to be reviewing that are a lot more in-depth and technical, but this is just a great overview. So either a reference to things if you have a little bit of experience or students going back to it after a demo in class. And you can see it does get into some more involved things. These are typical techniques and processes that maybe we get into with our intermediate students, for example. And there's whole books on some of this, like with die forming. Susan Kingsley's book is amazing for that, but he has several pages that go over that. And certainly like Charles Lutenbrain's fold forming book expands on this, but just a good introduction and awareness that those techniques and processes exist. Tim was an early kind of participant in bringing metal clay to the United States. So he has a section on here, and it continues to be refined and improved, and many people continue to be working with it. And then from the kind of basic tools and equipment, getting into surface treatments, from hammering to roll printing, just a variety of different things. A lot of these are covered either in beginning or intermediate level workshops. And again, you can see that great blend of the hand-drawn illustrations, specific, really concise reference information, Some inspiring quotes sprinkled through there. And moving into joining. So from cold joining techniques that are a personal favorite of mine into torches or sort of hot joining techniques, different materials and processes that you'll need and supplies that you'll need for soldering. And then a little bit of how that's working. I think a lot of times, particularly beginners, are enmeshed in just getting things to work as opposed to really understanding why something might be working or not working. And even some processes that maybe aren't as common in a jewelry studio with different types of welding. And moves into coloration of metal. He has another whole great book on that, but this is just a nice introduction to patinas and some very basic recipes. Enameling is a whole other sort of life's pursuit, but a good quick introduction to things. You don't see as much anodizing happening, but still can be, has lots of great potential, and I still see contemporary practitioners exploring new ways of working with it. And moving from those colorations and textures into finishing. And this is still kind of a sketch that I'll redraw on the board while I'm teaching and explaining how polishing works and why it works. And some important, always covering and bringing in safety information that I'm certainly emphasizing in my teaching, and great to have re-emphasized within a reference book. And I like when he gets into problem solving with a variety of different sections in here, and that can be great to go back to as you're still exploring or learning a process. And wide range of different casting approaches. I've done many cuttlefish workshops, and that's really lots of fun, particularly for people that have a little bit less experience with it, but just to see a mold help create liquid metal into a form. And he really gets into some great details with the variety of different wax working approaches and techniques. Again, this book really serves as the textbook for our beginning classes. And although we don't cover all of these techniques and processes, certainly really useful for our students to be going back to this. Many of these techniques we get into maybe with more of our intermediate or advanced students. More problem solving. Stones and stone setting. Wonderful quick reference and overview. And some great little tips and tricks that come in there, as well as basic overview techniques. More of those problem solving. And just a nice range of different handmade setting possibilities. And gets into some slightly more involved techniques and processes. And this is a new section over the previous editions with chains and clasps. Some of our students just get really into the meditative or repetitive processes involved in that. And then starts getting into some different findings related to those chains, way of finishing off those chains with different clasps. And again, very practical, able to be made, handmade designs and for the different findings. And then moving into some other findings and mechanisms of different types. And I love the great sort of range of design inspiration that you could see as a starting point and work in your own variation of those. And this is still just some basics that I go back to with teaching beginning students their pin stems for the first time. I've done quick little workshops on fibula, which you think about, thousands of years they've been making this kind of jewelry. Nice variety of different hinges. And Tim has another whole great book on boxes and lockets that get into these in a lot more detail, but these are some wonderful hinges and catches. And then just kind of sums it all up with an appendix on health safety, some health concerns with some different exercises. I've shared these with students as they get more involved. And then just some nice overviews and reference documents with melting points, temperature conversions, things like that. Some nice tips with things that we all need to do as far as photographing our work, making some tools. And this is a great little template for laying out your own studio and figuring out, if you have a space, how you might want to arrange that. Some little layouts and some additional resources, and of course an index for the whole book. So that sort of sums this one all up. And I hope this sort of page-by-page book review or book report on it has been helpful to you. And certainly share any requests, or if there's other books that you want to see me kind of go through and review, I'm happy to do those. So maybe it's helpful, and you can share it with others that might be wanting to use it as a resource. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can hear from me when I post future videos. Thanks for stopping by.